When Traidcraft started 30 years ago, very few people had heard of fair trade. Today, the UK is the world's largest fair trade market, and more than 7.5 million people, farmers, workers and their families across nearly 60 developing countries, are benefiting from the international fair trade system. It's a huge achievement, and at Traidcraft we're proud of the leading role we're playing in helping thousands of producers reap the benefits of fairer trading opportunities. The UK market is continuing to grow thanks to people like you buying fair trade. Together we're transforming trade, making change happen, and transforming lives in the process. But the job isn't done. Not every producer is capable of engaging in international trade, and there are many millions more who could benefit if they could sell on fair trade terms closer to home. In the 30 years since we started, we've gained a lot of experience, but we haven't lost our pioneering spirit. And now we've taken on one of the biggest challenges we've ever faced. India is a country rich in history, culture and contrast. Manufacturing, commerce, high-tech industries are growing, yet 1/3 of the world's poor live within its borders. 456 million people live below the poverty line, the majority of them in rural areas. And the gap between the rich and the poor is getting wider. Imagine what could happen if we could change that. Imagine if in a country as vast and vibrant as India, we could create a fair trade market as successful as our own. Girish Sahani believes we can.
What we require is a sort of a homegrown and home-shaped version of fair trade in India, where there would be fair trade certification that is brought in, where there would be ways in which producers can participate more meaningfully in the value chain. In India, one of the important characteristics that you see in society today is a fast-growing, very large sized middle class, and that large sized middle class, which is almost 300 million people, which is huge. It is like the European market itself, but that huge section is there, which probably is the major consumer class in India. So we expect that this category, and particularly the higher middle class among these, which is also sizable, would be an important consumer group which would be able to do a better justice to the fair trade movement. And I think this type of a fair trade presentation would not only be of benefit to the producer because they are getting probably a preferential buying or maybe slightly higher price if that is possible, but what will be more important for the consumer is also it will give them a sense of awareness and a sense of being participative in contributing to something which is more just.
In response to the need and the opportunity, we've launched our Profit Project, the start of a long-term initiative to develop a fair trade market in India, creating a huge opportunity, especially for the poorest producers who don't have the means to sell to markets overseas. Girish works for BIF Development Research Foundation, one of Traidcraft's Indian partner organisations, which has a lot of expertise developing livelihood opportunities for the poor. And the work BIF has already done with tribal communities in Gujarat shows what's possible when people get the help they need to work their way out of poverty.
We have here a project in South Gujarat which is working with tribal families. And these are tribal families who have just eked out a living. For 6 months they used to migrate from their villages, just being able to survive, just for being able to survive. We have thousands and thousands of families who have been helped to diversify their entire production base, and in the process assimilate a lot of new skills, build up their capacities, so that they are able to now take care of not only their own consumption needs, but are also producing enough farm surplus which they can exchange for their other needs and to develop the standard and quality of their life. In order to help them move up the value chain, we also introduced technology by which they started processing some of their farm produce. So mangoes are processed into pickles, mangoes are processed into pulp, cashew nut, raw cashew nut is processed to produce edible nut, and so on, a number of other things. We are also helping them to link directly with the markets for sale of their fresh farm produce. It may be vegetables, it may be fruit. This is the transformation. It cannot come in a short time. A generation back, these were not having enough food to eat for 6 months in a year. These were the families who the children hardly went to school because the whole family was migrating. These were the areas where infant mortality rates were more than 100 per thousand live births. All that has changed now.
Hard work, enterprise and access to opportunity have transformed the lives of people who, only a short time ago, barely eked out a living. The Profit Project is creating the same sort of opportunities for thousands more small-scale farmers and craft workers across India. And it's already attracting national and international interest. A label for Fairtrade certified products has been developed, and this will be the basis of a consumer awareness campaign that will be driven forward by the newly formed Fairtrade company Shop for Change, an independent, not-for-profit organisation.
This has been something which Traidcraft has been very solidly supporting, and I think for the future support that comes for the fair trade movement, it would start off on very solid foundations.
A secure future built on solid foundations. It's a dream shared by hundreds of thousands of producers and their families who will have their lives and their futures transformed if we succeed in creating a fair trade market in India. But if we're to turn this dream into a reality, we need your support. We've already received some funding, but we need donations from people like you to ensure the project is as successful as it can be. However much you contribute, you'll be helping more people like this build a future for themselves, their families and their communities. And that's a profit we can all be proud of. Thank you for your support.